What's up, guys? This is Mike Cazu, and you're listening to the Brute Strength Podcast. This week, I interview a good friend of mine and colleague, Casey Stanton. He's the CMO, or he acts as the CMO and CTO, so Marketing and Technology Officer for Brute, along with his team at Engaged Officers. This show is great for business owners, gym owners, anyone that is a leader of a team or wants to learn how to be a better team member. Casey is someone that I respect highly as a business leader, but also as a man that just wants to be the very best he can in every aspect of life. And I'm constantly searching for people like that to either mentor me or to look up to in general and find inspiration from. And Casey, over the past year and a half, has been one of my biggest role models. And so I'm stoked for you guys to get to learn from him a little bit. If you're a regular listener of this show and you haven't done so already, please throw this thing on pause real quick. Head to iTunes, leave me a quick review. I'd appreciate that. Enjoy the show. Hey guys, our Brute Body program is about to reopen for registration on March 20th, and the actual program will begin 1 week after the open ends. This is perfect timing because this program is the fastest way to build muscle, get leaner, and generally just hit huge PRs in all of your strength lifts. With this launch, it's our 1-year anniversary, and we're releasing a ton of new content on goal setting, a ton of education on nutrition, training, and mindset, and we're even bringing in a transformation challenge with the top prize being a cruise for 2. If you have any questions at all about the program, email us at info@brutestrengthtraining.com. Or you can go to brutestrengthtraining.com/programs/brute-body to sign up for the wait list. That's brutestrengthtraining.com/programs/brute-body. If you have a question that you want answered related to health and fitness, mindset, business, etc., please don't hesitate to call in. I absolutely love being able to connect with you guys and answer your questions, or having friends of mine that are experts help me answer your questions. So if you're interested, call into the hotline at 801-449-0503. That's 801-449-0503.
Hi Mike, this is Teddy Lomas. I got in touch with you in the past to just basically say that I love the podcast, I love what you do, I love the content that you put out there, and the guests you get on board. So great job with the podcast, and keep doing what you're doing there. My question is, as a student, a master's student at the moment, and someone looking to get as much practical experience in exercise physiology and strength and conditioning, as well as someone that had part-time jobs and just other things going on, wanting to do my own training, explore programming, and just a lot of things going on in general. I'm pretty busy. I'd say that one of my worst traits is having all these things and these to-dos in my head on a daily basis and not being able to prioritize, and stressing myself out sometimes and not being as productive as I want to be. So my question for you is, I mean, you're going to be, I imagine you're a busy individual and you've got a lot to get done in a day with Brew, the podcast, and all the other things you've got going on. So I just wanted to wonder something you have for being as efficient as possible in the day, being productive, giving time to the things that matter in your life, as well as the work and the tasks that you've got to accomplish. What are the things that you've learned as you've got older? How are you able to be as efficient as possible? Yeah, that's my question. Just would really like to get your view on that type of thing. And like I said, love the podcast, love the content you put out there. It's helping me a lot with my studies and my general interest in, I think I told you before. So keep it up, do a job with 1 million subscribers. All the best, man.
Teddy, what's up, brother? First off, love the, is that Australian, New Zealand? Love the accent, man. I am going to get my good friend Casey Stanton to help me answer this question. He's one of the highest performing business guys that I know. But what I love about Casey is that he also, his perspective on life in general is just very solid. And I think it'll lend itself to your question really well. So Casey, what you got, man?
Yeah, so there was a couple things that you brought up, which was around a hard time prioritizing and then getting stressed out. And one of the things that we say a lot when we're working together, Mike, and just in my personal life, I'm seeing a lot is when we get stressed out, it's when we're doing something that's either new and different or it's outside of our unique ability. And I think that's an interesting lens to view things from. So sometimes it just sucks, and getting stressed out about doing things is just because you're getting overwhelmed. That's okay. All things pass. But sometimes getting stressed out is you stepping up and having to do things that aren't in your unique ability. Now, that term unique ability comes from my business coach, Dan Sullivan, and Mike, your business coach as well, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So Dan says when something is outside of your unique ability, it's going to cause you stress, avoidance, and frustration. And maybe there's a way to see the stuff that you have to do, that you're trying to prioritize, you're having a hard time with, as things that maybe aren't for you to do. And there could be someone that could do it better. And maybe writing that check or working an extra hour at your job, doing the thing that you're really good at, that you're passionate about, and then writing the check for someone else to solve that problem, maybe that could be helpful. It's maybe a different way to look at it.
I love that. How do you think, how can you tell if it's stress coming from discomfort, right? Like you're pushing your boundaries and you're being vulnerable versus outside of, doing things outside of your unique ability?
Yeah. So I'll just say that, like being in it long enough, being self-employed long enough, I know what stress feels like. I know what stress in my personal relationship feels like, being in a relationship long enough. So I can kind of suss out where there's stress that comes from things that I have to deal with. Sometimes in business though, and sometimes in my personal life, there's stress. I'll just give you one example. I'm on the road, just like you, Mike, are, and traveling full time. It's frustrating to be on the road so often. And sometimes I'm overloaded with work. Sometimes I just bit off more than I could chew, and I'm just having a hard time getting through things. The last thing I want to do my laundry. Last thing I want to do, make food. Last thing I want to do, are these like boring things like go shopping for groceries. So I'll get those things taken care of for me, which will free me up emotionally to take care of, the more important things that I can't have someone else do.
I love that, man. Okay. So Teddy, given that you are a master's, you're in a master's program, you're a student, I'm guessing you may not have the funds to do this kind of thing. So here's some kind of tactical advice that I would give you, because you asked, how can you keep the most important things in your life? How do you keep them the most important things in your life? Right. Actually,
it's like a Covey thing. He says the most important thing is to keep the most important thing the most important thing.
Exactly.
That's really tough.
When you're super busy, man, it's as simple as putting those things in your schedule, right? Put time with your significant other, put time with your family, put time doing your favorite hobby, those things that really feed your soul, and those things that you say are your most important things, put them in your schedule and you will get them done, right? And just make it a non-negotiable thing that you're going to make time for what's most important to you. In terms of being as productive as possible, we could talk about that for a really long time, but the biggest bang for your buck thing I think you can do in today's day and age is create rules around your cell phone and your email. So if you have a project you're working on or you have to program for a while, then set a 60-minute, 90-minute timer, turn your phone on airplane mode and go pee and get water beforehand, because I want you to do a 60 to 90-minute session where you don't get up and you work on whatever project you're working on until it's complete, right? Or for that entire block of time. When you can really get focused and remove all of those distractions, I think you'll be amazed at the quality of work that you can get done in such a short period of time. Hope that helps, man.
I've got a couple quick things on that, Mike, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So one quick thing is, I think everyone thinks that they should have a certain strength and focus. Like we should be able to focus a certain amount of time. And I think focus is a muscle, just like any other muscle in your body, where we start off, kids, I have nieces that have no focus. They're just young kids, but as we grow and mature, we have the ability to strengthen that muscle. And ultimately the goal is, to be able to sit down and knock out a chunk of work and be 100% dedicated and focused. I like the Pomodoro technique. I think it's a neat one. I don't follow it religiously, but I have people that I work with that do, and they have a lot of results. So that's working for 20 minutes or 25 minutes at a time, and then taking a 5-minute break, and then doing that on repeat. I think that's an interesting way to do it. But the thing that works the best for me in focus is there's a coffee shop. When I was living in New Orleans, there's a coffee shop that I would go to.
I like the sound of that.
Right? It was like uncomfortable. That didn't have good air conditioning. And I made a point not to meet any of the baristas. I didn't want to be anyone's friend there. I didn't want to go in and know anyone. So it was far enough away from my home where none of my friends would show up there, and I would go and just get work done. And it was almost like I couldn't wait to get out.
Wow.
It sucked. And I would get done the worst stuff that I had to do. The most important stuff that was the thing that kept me up at night, like, oh shit, I got to do this thing. I would just schedule the time and go. Right. And this, the last piece to that, I saw this recently on Business Insider, but Huffington Post has a notion about it. And it's about scheduling, like you mentioned, but schedule the things in your life that are important. You said time with your significant other. I mean, people are even scheduling sex. Like they're scheduling time to be intimate. And this is like how we have to prioritize the most important things in our lives to make sure that we do them, instead of just assuming that we'll spontaneously have this motivation or this drive to do something that's uncomfortable, or it's new, or it's frustrating, or it's stressful.
Hell yeah. I love that, man. Hope that helps, Teddy. What's up, guys? This is Mike Cashew, and you're listening to the Brute Strength Podcast. Casey, I know you're an extremely busy dude. Thanks for making some time to do this with me, man.
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. I'm happy to be here.
So just to give you guys a little bit of background, Casey and his team, engaged officers, act as a chief marketing officer and chief technology officer for Brute. They've worked with FitAid, Charles Poliquin, and hundreds of other, startups and very successful companies alike. And what I've just been so impressed by not only Casey, but his entire team, which says a lot about him as a person. I've gotten to know him as a business owner, and he's been a really, really positive mentor to me as in the realm of business, but also on a personal level in just the way that he lives his life. And so, I want to, kind of tease out what makes him so successful in business and as a leader, but then also how he approaches, some serious life questions and issues. So Casey, you have an amazing team. Y'all are very effective and organized, all very passionate. Where did you learn how to lead? Is there someone in your life that you've modeled or experiences? Where does that come from?
Oh man, like what a great question. So leadership is a really interesting topic. And before I dive into it, I just want to say, Mike, like how impressed I am seeing your leadership at Brute and seeing the work that you guys have been doing, seeing the work that you've been doing with the D and how you guys are working together. I think that's just like, talk about like a cool power couple to watch.
Thank you. Thank you, brother.
Yeah. So on the leadership side of stuff, leadership within an organization is really interesting. And I think leadership, when you're not in a leadership role or in an ownership role, feels like a tactic that you could work on. But really, when you're in the position, the goal of being a leader is to get the right stuff done on time and to maximize the results. Like that's the goal of a leader. And as far as I'm concerned, you should be doing that while having a whole lot of fun. And that kind of colors my view on how I lead. So when I want to talk to someone on the team and it's like not a comfortable conversation because a client's unhappy, that conversation still needs to come from a place of caring for them, wanting them to do well in life, like wanting them to be happy, but ultimately wanting the business to push forward, to deliver more value, and to help the people that we're serving. One of the big things that I think a lot of businesses should take on is a real clear ownership of the impact that they're making. So we've got a development company, like a technology implementation company. And sometimes we'll get tasks and they're kind of boring. Like they're just run-of-the-mill tasks. But it's when you look at the impact that those tasks make on the lives of the people that consume the information, you realize that you become a multiplier of this. And leadership, I think, then gets kind of, it like starts at that point of making an impact, and then getting the right people to make the impact, and then just having fun making that impact.
Gotcha. So you said that you have to, like, these tough conversations, you have to come from a place of caring for them and stuff like that. I don't know if that's something that everyone shares. In fact, I think it's rare that leaders lead that way these days. Where does that come from?
Sure. So uh, I don't know, 5 years ago, I got the book Nonviolent Communication by Dr. Marshall Rosenberg. And this guy has got it down. I love his view on human needs. So basically, if we look at Maslow in the hierarchy of needs, we have needs from, food and shelter all the way up to self-actualization.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like 5 steps on that pyramid. Well, Rosenberg took that and exploded it and added maybe 60 or 70 different needs that we have. And what he says is everyone has the same human needs. Everyone has the same one. We have a need to be seen. We have a need to make an impact. We have a need for personal expression. We have a need for sexual gratification. We have a need for happiness. We have a need for family and relationship. We have all of these needs. And then what happens on the individual level is we prioritize the needs differently, depending on who we are and our past experiences in life and maybe our upbringing. So for some people, their need to be seen is more important than their need to feel loved. Okay, so they're going to start prioritizing needs differently. And then Rosenberg goes on to say that each person goes and has their need met in the most skillful way they know how. So if the most skillful way you know how to have your need met is to act out to get attention so that you can be seen, that's not very skillful, but we can understand that there's a humanity behind the need. Mm-hmm. So me understanding that and just kind of dialing in on what Rosenberg thinks on this nonviolent communication front takes the reaction away from what someone does. So if someone does something and to me it looks like, oh, they totally screwed up. They screwed the relationship with the client, or they dropped the ball on this. When I go back, I can see what happened and unpack it. Because firing them is not the right answer typically. It's sometimes not the wrong answer. But the right answer is, why did this happen? What need did you have? What need was getting met? How did you do it? Was there a more skillful way to do it? Is there a way for us to improve on this? And if there is, let's go improve on it and let's not do it again. Like, confirm for me this won't happen again. And we're all on the same page, because the last thing I want to do is hire a new person, right? That's expensive.
Right.
That's time consuming. But getting that right person to be a little more conscious of what they're doing and how they're doing things, and maybe how they're being unskillful in certain ways, helps me tap in just to their humanity and what makes them tick. And then I can make sure that they're making better decisions moving forward.
So this kind of starts the conversation of, like, quote unquote, bringing the best out in your team, right? And what it seems like you do is you really, really realize that not everyone operates the same way as you. And so you have at least a couple very tactical ways that you, categorize people and learn about people. Is this the love language that you're talking about?
Yeah, love language is huge. Love language is huge. So love language is a little different, but it falls right in there. So with nonviolent communication, the idea is that you make an empathy guess. So I make an empathy guess why someone did something. And I'm just going to guess using empathy, saying like, okay, if I was in their position, if I had their shoes on and I was doing that and this happened, can I understand why their reaction happened? And if I can, then I feel like I'm connecting more with who they are as a person, instead of like the binary of what they did and that it was wrong. Mm-hmm. On the other side is like, how do you reward someone? And rewarding someone is, I think, really important in a team. And the way that you want to reward someone is in the way that they receive a reward. So a great assessment for that, and one that I had you do when we started working together, was the 5 love languages. And if anyone on the call hasn't taken that assessment, it's free. Just go online, search for 5 love languages. Gary Chapman. Take the assessment. It takes a few minutes. and it ranks the 5 love languages and where you fall. And those 5 are acts of service, they're gifts, quality time, words of affirmation, and physical touch. And it just ranks where you are on that spectrum. So for example, I'm a quality time physical touch guy.
Mm-hmm.
Someone sends me a gift, I don't really care for it. But there are other people in my life that are very gift driven. They're typically the people that send gifts. So if I want to say to them, hey, you did a great job, what do? Do I go spend time with them? They're like, they don't want the time.
Right.
You know, they don't want me to say, hey, you did a great job. They want a small token of appreciation, maybe like flowers. Like that's going to really meet them where they are.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really important.
And then talk about the other one. Talk about the Colby a little bit.
Yeah. So the 5 love languages tells you someone like the way they receive love and the way to help them. So one last example on that is if someone on the team has words of affirmation, that's the thing that makes them tick. That's where they feel love. Mm-hmm. If that person just does a home run, I'm going to send an email out to the entire team and be like, hey guys, check out what Alex did. Alex just killed it. And just give him all the praise. And he's going to feel so good about it. It's going to be great. If I did that to the wrong person though, that person would be like, get me out of the spotlight. Like, don't ever do that again. Mm-hmm. So love language is great. But then the question is, what are people's natural behavior? And natural behavior is this like fascinating field of psychology, and it's called conation, or your conative strengths. And this assessment was created by a woman named Kathy Colby, who was the daughter of the guy who created the Wonderlic, which for any football players know, it's the test that you take when you're in football for cognition. So Kathy, she got in a terrible car accident, and in her time laid up, she said, you know what, Dad, it's not how smart you are. That's not what matters. It's how you behave. So she came up with this assessment, and I think it's the best. And it's this notion of understanding your modus operandi or your striving instincts. So ever since you were a kid, and Mike, you and I are very similar in this regard, ever since we were young boys, we always approached problems in the same way. We would just dive headfirst into them, right? Mm-hmm. And we would just start it immediately. It doesn't matter what the problem was. A buddy calls you and says, hey dude, my car's stuck. Before he even finishes the word stuck, you're already in your car driving towards it, right?
And he's like, wait, but I need jumper cables or whatever.
Right. You're like, shit. And then you go back and get it, right? And as you go back and get them, the energy starts waning because the energy is in the act of taking action. Mm-hmm. So in the Colby scale, there's 4 metrics, and it's fact finder, and then it's follow through, and then it's quick start, and then it's implementer. And you rank between 1 and 10 on all of them. And there's no wrong answer. Everyone is very unique.
Everybody gets a quote unquote perfect score.
Yeah, exactly. And Mike and I share the score of a quick start with a low follow through. So our strength, if we look at it like a strength, instead of looking at it the way probably, I don't know if your parents said it, but my parents did, which is, why can't you finish what you start? Did you get a lot of that as a kid?
I really didn't, but it was definitely self-imposed.
Okay.
I definitely
the self-talk
gave
around
myself
it.
a lot of that.
Yeah. So the quick start is going and just jumping into something. The fact finder on that spectrum from low to high or short to long, a short fact finder just wants the big picture. It's just like, just give me the big picture and I'll get to work. Other people say, oh, I want all the details. Give me all those details. So that's one modality. And the next one is the follow through, which is the ability to follow like a ordered set process or protocol. Mike, if I told you every day you had to do the same thing in the morning, would that be easy for you to do or a little hard?
Outside of my morning routine that I love, it would be awful.
Like if that was your 9-to-5 job, was to follow the
awful.
Same thing. Yeah, it'd be really frustrating.
Miserable.
And that's because you have a low follow through. Mm-hmm. Now, if someone had a high follow through, that person could be like a process manager, which is they take a process and over time they do it over and over and over again, but they make it better and they improve on it to the point where they take it from reasonably inefficient to the most efficient process ever. Mm-hmm. And for you and me, just getting it done the first time is enough. And then we move on to the next thing.
Right.
So that's the follow through. Then you have the quick start, shorter quick starts, want to maintain, and longer quick starts just want to jump into the new and different. And the last one is implementer. And the way I look at implementer is a short implementer is someone who's in their head a lot. They, the work that they do is like really cerebral. And then a long implementer is someone who uses their hands a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And this is someone who builds things. So an example of that is I've got a good friend who's a carpenter and he builds Mardi Gras floats. And he and I don't have a great conversation. I want to talk maybe about the future and, more like brainy stuff. And he's too busy like putting beautiful finishing touches on like exquisite works of art.
Right.
So they're very different and they're competing in some regard. But it's about knowing your conation and then knowing where you're going to fall short and then finding someone who's the opposite, bringing them in and having them support you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
I love all of that.
That happened in your organization. So when we started chatting about a year ago, it was pretty clear to me that you had a short follow through, and doing the same thing over and over again is just going to cause you stress. So the reporting on numbers and looking at some specific metrics and taking action on them is just not your thing because it's not new and different. So we did the Colby profile on a few people, and then Jess was an easy answer, wasn't she?
Exactly.
And Jess is a long follow through. She's a great complementary opposite to you. And the stuff that you really hate doing, she gets energy from. So when you mix the two together, you've got this team that works really well.
Yep. Yeah, that was a very pivotal moment in our company's history for sure. That's when a lot of the things that we kept saying we wanted to do actually started to get done. There were probably 1,000 ideas. I guess there still are. There are so many more ideas that never come to fruition, but now there's actually someone to really make sure that they're happening.
There's another quick assessment for that, and the book is called Rocket Fuel, and I think the website is rocketfuelnow.com. You take the assessment, and it tells you, are you an integrator or are you a visionary? And I would say that's like a Colby ultralight, but it's a free assessment. And if you took that, you could see that you, Mike, are a visionary, and Jess is an integrator. And I'd be curious with a D because she's kind of in the middle across all of the Colby spectrum. She's a mediator. So I wonder if she would be kind of both an integrator and a visionary.
I'm sure she's everything.
She is.
She's everything. No, guys, if you're listening to this, I highly, highly recommend you take this test, even if you're not on a team at all. I think it can just teach you a lot about yourself. And as Casey was saying in the beginning of the podcast, that it can teach you what you don't want to spend a lot of your time doing, right? If you notice yourself, drained doing certain tasks, this can kind of shed some light on why that may be. You might just, if you're doing repetitive tasks and you find out you're a high quick start, well, there's your answer. Like repetitive tasks are just not for you. So, and especially if you're a member of a team or you're a leader of a team, this can be a great way to make sure that everyone in the organization is doing what they're going to be best at.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be able to predict where people are going to fail is really helpful too. So if I said to you, Mike, okay, let's start a new venture together, and our job is to do this repetitive task over and over again, and you're fired up about the potential of the growth of the business, so you're like, hell yeah, let's do it. I could probably expect you to do a great job for maybe a week or two. And then you kind of screw up. Oops, something else happened. That's okay. No big deal, man. Let's keep going. Okay. Oh, and then a couple days later, I didn't get around to it today. Sorry, I'll do it tomorrow. And it starts adding the stress and frustration over time. And it's okay. Like there's nothing wrong with that. So knowing where you're going to naturally have stress and avoidance is going to allow you to, buttress yourself with someone else who gets energy from that. So one last example is we've got a friend who runs a big event out in Boston, and he has a lot of speakers that come in and speak on stage to a few thousand students. And I offered to volunteer. So I'm volunteering, and they said, what role do you want to be in? And I said, a high chaos role. So they put me as the taxi coordinator. So I'm volunteering and I'm on the phone and I'm talking to Buzz Aldrin's, driver, or I'm talking to the guy who invented the Segway, and trying to get these people all orchestrated to come in. And when it was chaotic, I was in heaven.
Yes.
Right? Like it was utter craziness. And when it was calm, I just kicked back and enjoyed myself.
Right.
I didn't proactively check flights. I didn't do any of that stuff.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But when 3 people needed to leave and I only had one phone to call an Uber, and I had to go grab phones from other people, then run outside and flag the cars down and everything, like I'm on cloud 9. Now, as they added complexity and actually doubled the amount of events that they were hosting, they needed someone to plan all of the scheduling. So my fiance Adelaide is a long follow through, long fact finder. So she's great at getting all the information and creating like her checklists are beautiful. So she created it all. She had the whole incoming and outgoing flights, and she was dealing with it all. Now, she couldn't handle the stress of all like 7 doctors all wanting to leave at one time and having to like go snag phones and do that. But that was me. So we became this team that worked like in symphony together. She would do all the work that was preparatory, and I would do all the reactionary work.
I'm laughing so hard because you're able to articulate it so well, and I'm still learning a lot about it, but it's like it's just music to my ears. It all makes so much sense. I love it.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of shame and guilt. My dad would say to me things like, Casey, you could do anything in life, but you just got to finish what you start.
Right.
And it's just like, I don't finish what I start. I really don't. So all I need is a finisher on my team. And when you talked about me having a team that's so effective, we pulled in a long follow through. And Bill and myself at Engaged Officers, we're both quick starts with low follow through. So our deficiency is in finishing what we start.
Yep.
Her strength is in finishing what other people start. So when we pair together, one person working essentially part-time for the 2 of us has allowed us to do probably 3 times more work without any stress.
It's phenomenal. So you've got, I would imagine you've got opportunities coming your way constantly, in a million different ways, different ventures, different partnerships, random opportunities. How do you know what to pursue and what to say no to?
Oh, what a tough question. So, I believe that there's like seasons of this in everyone's life where, especially if you're an entrepreneur, but just like generally speaking, there's always going to be new and different opportunities that'll approach you. And maybe they come at a specific time based on the things that you do. For me, people get really serious about business growth come January because they were a little unpleased with, they weren't pleased with the previous year's numbers. So I see kind of a lot of movement there. I don't see a lot of movement in quarter 4 because people are kicking back for the holidays. So when that happens and a lot of opportunities get thrown at me, being able to grade an opportunity based on some key criteria is incredibly important, and it needs to be objective. Sometimes I love working with people, but the opportunity isn't a good opportunity. And Joe Polish, who's in the marketing space, says there's like 7 ways to get paid. And I think this is a great framework. Do you know it? Have you heard this? Yeah. So one way to get paid is to get cash in your pocket. And that's the way most people think they get paid. But you can also get paid by having people do what you tell them to do. Like that feels really good. You can get paid on referrals. So I help someone and they send me back 10 customers. That's a great way to get paid.
Right.
Another way to get paid is for people to say please and thank you. There's like just the niceness of helping someone. So when opportunities come on my plate, being able to grade them and make a non-emotional decision about the best thing, what's best for me, is like the priority. And that's all based on knowing where you want to go. Like, what the hell are you doing in your life? What's your goal? So is your goal strength-based? Is your goal to make a certain financial number by a certain age? Is your goal to have a world-class marriage? Like, these are all very important goals that can
Right.
absolutely compete against each other. So having those priorities and then being able to say, okay, this one has the least amount of effort for me it needed, or maybe it's the most effort, but it's the least capital investment, or it's the least amount of risk, or I'm grading it based on total payout, or I'm grading it on the time it's going to take away from my spouse. You're grading it on some kind of feel-good metrics for you, plus financial metrics, plus whatever. And then you make the decision outside of anyone else's input, because no one gets your motivations like you do, right? At the end of the day.
On a personal level, for me, one of the things that I've valued more and more over the last few years is the investment. Is the investment going to is it going to be a good investment, like intellectually for me, or as a leader, or in different skills that I want to build, right? Is this partnership going to connect me with a mentor or someone that I can basically learn from? That's been extremely, extremely valuable, rather than just looking at things, as you're saying, like as just getting paid with dollars. Because there's just so many more things that matter. And especially in the long run, money made today is not, you're going to spend that. So what can you invest in that's going to make you happier or help you earn more later on?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was just about 2 years ago, I went through the Lifebook program. Are you familiar with that?
I am.
Okay. So Lifebook is, for those who don't know, it's there's 12 chapters or 12 categories in your life. And Lifebook is about getting clear on what you want out of them. So one is about your romantic relationship. One is about your parenting. One is about your career. One is about your health and fitness. Another one's your quality of life, your life vision. And spending time going through Lifebook, getting clear on all of these elements was so helpful, because something that's really important to both you and me is our intellectual life. Like, we're hungry for more information. We're hungry for more experiences. And yeah, we want to build successful businesses, but at the end of the day, like, we could be dead broke. You and I both could be dead broke. Just enough money to buy a couple beers every now and then and have a great life, right? That would still be okay, because we have the family, we have the relationships, we have the intellectual capital, we have the friendships that support a great life. And that at some level is more important than any kind of, wealth that you can generate.
Right. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, what most people deep down want, it really is they want money to buy their freedom, right? And they want money to have a few comforts, but just to allow themselves the freedom of maybe space and time. And I think a lot of people, most of the time, people confuse that and just think that more money is always better, when it really isn't. Right. Everyone has a number, like a minimum number that is acceptable, that they can be just as happy as they would having millions and millions of dollars. So I think getting clear about what's most important to you and what it's going to take to accomplish those very important things is a really useful thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that there's an emotional component that I think most men don't take into account when they look at, building a great future, which is, like, anyone can build an incredibly successful business, but is it worth the cost of the tax on your relationships? So I think a lot of guys specifically aren't looking at having the foundation of a solid marriage, or a solid relationship, or a solid relationship with their kids. They're saying, I need to make X amount of money and then I can have time for those things.
Right.
It just seems backwards, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We think that we need that to be secure, but really how much we're in the comfiest, most cushiest era of all time right now. Like, we would have to F a lot of stuff up to really be screwed. And so I think, it's just, people just don't understand how much they would have to screw up to actually be down and out. And so it's just like they're spinning their wheels.
Yeah, and this is one of those things that I'm really passionate about. We talked a bit about this yesterday, which is the whole notion of like what's going to happen in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, entertainment has never been cheaper than it is today. Right? There's unlimited entertainment on
Mm-hmm.
Netflix for $7 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And TVs are like next to free, and power is essentially free. Right? So you have the entertainment, there's no cost to it. We're seeing a rise in automation. How many jobs are going to get taken by robots in the next 20, 30 years? I mean, a staggering number. So anyone that's currently in a job that could be overtaken by a robot, like there should be a little bit of a concern there. There should definitely be some education on the college front. When I was teaching at Tulane in New Orleans, the students all thought that they could take the jobs that their parents had and their grandparents had. But the fact of the matter is these jobs just won't be around. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like, the salesman for pharmaceuticals, like that's probably going to get automated. A lot of it will get automated and it'll be really hard to break in there. Sure, there might be some people still working it, but I think we're just going to see more automation. And then with that automation, there's just going to be less work to do. So we're going to find less time, or there's going to be less labor for us to do because the robots are doing it. And then what are we going to do with that remnant time? And I think that this is the big question to ask right now, which is if you had an extra 20 hours a week given back to you, what would you do with it? And I think the answer is be creative. I think it's have fun. I think it's play. I think it's try to do good in the world. But to each person, the way that answer gets applied to their life is like subject to interpretation. And I think it's exciting. So, and all of these things that we're talking about, I think just to have that lens to look through that says that I'm not going to have to work as hard as I'm working right now, not because I'm going to be lazy, but because a far more efficient machine will take over some of this labor.
Mm-hmm.
What am I going to do with my life? How am I going to spend my time?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's I think it's an interesting lens to look through.
How do you think about the notion or kind of the idea, especially in Western culture, that the harder you work, or basically hard work being equated with, being a good person or a valuable person? So you're
Yeah.
talking about, we're going to have all this time. And I think so many people, I definitely still have some of this lingering that, I have to be working hard. And if I'm not, then I'm just lazy. How do you go about thinking about that?
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear on it. I mean, if it's like 3 days in and, I work from home, just like you do. So like maybe it's 3 days in and haven't showered and you've got that gym stink on you and you're kind of feeling nasty about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Self-image and like pegging your self-worth to those things is like, I see how it happens, but when you step away from it, it really is kind of a foolish thing because I'm more efficient working the way I work. I'm more efficient doing the things I do, and I'm passionate about the work I'm doing. I have a great time working.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to, that's the whole thing with the positive focus that we do whenever we talk. That's the whole notion of saying, how do I measure my success? Do I measure my success or my happiness based on how far I have to go or how far I've come?
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that we learned from Dan Sullivan at Strategic Coach, both of our business coaches. I apply this on all meetings that I have with clients, all internal meetings. When I do a weekly check-in with my fiance, like we always start with a positive focus. And the question we ask is, okay, in the last 7 days, what have you done that you're thrilled about? What's a big win that you've had?
Mm-hmm.
Or how we say it at work is, in the last 30 days, what have you done to positively push the business forward, something that you're really excited about? And it just gets people to start celebrating the good. And they see the work that they've done and they celebrate it and they have
Mm-hmm.
fun.
So
Because
you're
going to bat
focused
every day.
more on results than just time clocked in and out.
Yeah. And it's the result that matters. It's the impact that matters. But come on, man, at the end of the day, it's the journey too, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not about the output. It's about having fun doing it.
Right.
So I think the positive focus is helpful to say, what did I do? And Strategic Coach has an app for it. It's called Win Streak, and it's on iOS and Android. It's a free app, and every day you just punch in the 3 things that you did today that you were thrilled about, and the 3 things that you're going to do tomorrow. And these are the wins. This isn't like, I'm going to create this thing and write this thing. No, it's, I will have impacted the lives of. We're all done this kind of bigger picture thing that feels great.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think you just start distancing yourself from how many hours am I working? Because we don't have to be these agrarians like college tells us to be. We don't have to go and plow the field for 14 hours a day because, the crop's ready. What we have to do is we have to give more than we take. And I think we just need to have a good time doing it. I think those are the most important things.
Love it, man. Hey guys, a lot of you have reached out to us over the last year of doing this podcast and asked for programming that you could do in addition to your daily WODs. A few things that I hear most often are A, you're hitting strength plateaus, B, your body composition isn't changing like it did when you first started, or C, you're getting injured more than you would like. So I think the issue here is that first off, let me say that CrossFit classes are the best thing to happen in the fitness industry in history, if you ask me. However, people encounter a few problems. A, they have a shitty coach that just programs poorly and is always beating people up. B, the coach, they have a good coach, but that coach only has 60 minutes to fit everything in and just doesn't have time to do some of the structural balance and recovery type work. Or C, the coach is just biased towards competition and CrossFit Games training and has his or her average Joes doing a bunch of muscle ups and high rep snatches every week and just, again, beating people up. So we created something for all of you that want to just add a little extra before or after your daily workouts to help you build strength, build muscle, and blast through those plateaus. It includes a bunch of different warm-ups as well as upper body and lower body workout segments that you can just add to the beginning or end of your workouts. And again, these are going to help with structural balance. So it's going to keep you healthier. It's going to help you break through strength and body composition plateaus. And in general, I think you're just going to have a lot of fun doing these. We call it the secret strength weapon because adding this stuff in to your routine is going to give you a serious advantage over the people without it. And also because it sounds kind of cool. You can download the PDF at brutestrengthtraining.com/SSW. That's brutestrengthtraining.com/SSW. So this is kind of a good segue into this. I consider you a self-actualizer, and you were talking about this earlier on the podcast, actually. And what that means to those of you who haven't heard that is, to me, that means someone that wants to become the best version of themselves in every area of their life. So my question is, what skills are you trying to build currently, and what skills matter the most to you?
Oh, great. Well, it's a really good question. It's a hard question. So the skills that I'm actively working on right now, one of the big skills is I'm on the road full time. So back in May, my fiance and I sold all of our stuff. I mean, we gave most of it away. We bought a Dodge Durango because it's got the 3 rows, and we packed it full of Rubbermaids, and now we're on the road full time. So we're taking 2 years to go city dating. We're finding a new place. We've got our dog as our sidekick, and the 3 of us have, spent time in Toronto. That's where you and I caught up last.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in Orlando right now. Spent time in Alabama. We're traveling all over, and we're just trying to find this new home. We're going to soon be in Austin and stay there for a few months. In this travel, being able to minimize has been huge. So the question is, when I buy something, when I buy one thing, what 2 things am I getting rid of? That's a fun question. I'm a hobbyist photographer, so I have gear acquisition syndrome, like probably every other photographer, right?
Gotcha.
And you just want more and more stuff, but what do you really need? So I scaled down my kit. I sold, I had a medium format film camera and I sold it, and I got a smaller version. I got a Hasselblad, which is a lot more compact than what I was shooting before, just taking up less and less space, living with smaller footprint.
Why is that important to you?
It's important to me because I don't want the burden of shit in my life,
Mm-hmm.
right? I want the results that I want, but I don't want the stuff. I like the feeling of when I first read that book. Have you read Marie Kondo's The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up?
No, but I know of it.
You know of it, yeah. So
Yeah.
the notion is you take all your clothes, you dump them in a pile. All of your clothes all around the house, all
Mm-hmm.
your jackets, all your everything, dump them in a pile. Go one by one and say, does this bring me joy? Does this spark
Mm-hmm.
joy? If it does, keep it. If not, throw it away. I purged and filled my whole GTI full of garbage or of clothing. Took it down to the donation center.
Mm-hmm.
Did it again 2 months later. Filled the car up again.
Wow.
Right? These things don't bring me joy. I thought they brought me joy, but they were wasting like my mental space. The amount of time that it would take us to do our laundry because
Mm-hmm.
it was clothes that we hated and had to sort through to find the good stuff. It's like there's a level of inefficiency there that I just got sick of.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're traveling in the car, the last thing I want to do is reduce my experience of traveling by having more stuff.
Right.
And it's like just thinking about the stuff that we still have that I don't need. Like how many gym shorts do I need?
Right.
Right? Do I need 4 pair or can I get by with 2?
Man, it's hard to give them away sometimes when you have so many nice pairs.
It's
But it's gotta go.
You could probably auction yours out though.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Yeah, autograph them.
Yeah. So that's been a big one. That's a big one that I'm working on, is just the simplification of life. In work, in my computer, for instance, I got a virus recently. So I had to bomb my whole computer. The time it took me to come back online after reformatting was like 30 minutes. I downloaded a couple of the major applications I use, and that's it. All of my data is online. So I have the smallest physical footprint in my life. That's the hope. It's not a carbon footprint, right? I can improve that definitely, but it's like a physical space footprint.
Got it. You know, I'm all about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. You can't afford to leave something on your hard drive in Toronto.
Right.
That's just not acceptable.
So I think we mentioned this on the call yesterday or the day before, this idea that the way you do anything is the way you do everything. What does that mean to you?
Oh, it's a good one. At our implementation team, so it's tech guys who get marketing, and Mike's the CEO there, and I've known Mike for years. He and I met at a bar in Ann Arbor while we were both drinking Pabst Blue Ribbon out of like buckets or pitchers.
Nice.
Yeah, Mike's a really good dude, and he brought that up early on in my career when I was working with him, and he would say that, and I hated hearing it. I'll tell you that much. Like, I loathed hearing it because to me, that's me failing. I don't want to fail at anything. To me, what it means now is that the only time I screw up is when I'm overloaded. That's it. Like, that's when I screw up. I don't screw up because I don't care about people, because I care about all the people I work with. Otherwise, I wouldn't work with them. So what I do and anything I do and everything, it means I bit off more than I could chew. I didn't have the language, or I don't have the language to say, like, I need an extra couple days to figure this out, or I need to pull in strategic support on it. And that's where I get put into bad positions. Does that answer the question?
Sure. Yeah. I don't have it's your answer.
Yeah.
For me, I look at it like, just to break it down for people a little more, like every single thing I do in my life matters. Right. And so if I want to be a CrossFit Games athlete, for instance, it's not enough. And this is taught at so many top organizations in sports, business, et cetera. It's not enough just to try to master the technicalities of the sport, right? And then go home and not give a shit about my wife, and not give a shit about my kid, and not give a shit about my intellect or my overall health. Like, it all matters, because at some point, if you have this attitude of not giving a shit about other things, it's going to eventually leak into the thing that, you know, you're saying matters most and that you're actually striving for excellence towards.
Mm-hmm.
The other way, the way that the best of the best of the best do it, is they strive for excellence in everything they do, right? It's just it's a way of being. And so if they're going to make a chair and they're a CrossFit Games athlete, they're still going to they're going to put as much effort into making that chair as possible. Right. And take all of that with a grain of salt, especially the chair piece, given that the
Right.
Colby discussion we just had. But the
Sure.
idea is like, strive for excellence in every single thing you do, because why not? Right. Like, why not give it your all?
And I think that the quote, what you do in anything, you do in everything, like to the untrained person is just says do better. And like, we know that there's some things that we just can't do better. Like, we can maybe do marginally better, but the whole notion of strengthening your weaknesses, I think, is a bad idea. I'd rather strengthen my strengths and be the strongest person at one specific thing. I'd rather be the best in the world at one thing. So like, what I do in anything, I do in everything. But I'm only going to do the things that I know that I'm going to do well.
Right. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. I don't want to set myself up for failure because, like, for instance, when we were in New Orleans, living there, we found an Eames chair. Do you know that classic kind of design chair?
A what chair?
Eames. It's like it's the chair that was like in Mad Men in the Office, and it's just like a classic architectural design. And we found one, and it was a knockoff, and it was in like pretty great shape, but we just needed to fix it. And I'm not that handy with my hands. I wish I was. My dad is. He's got a wood shop, right? I don't. So we got the chair, Adelaide disassembled it, and then I was going to work on it, and I sanded it, and I got some stuff ready. Come time to put that thing together, I couldn't do it. And it just robbed me, and it continues to rob me. It's like this monkey on my back that I can't get off because I just can't do it. Like, there's someone who can just put this thing together with their eyes closed and it's fine. But for some reason, I honestly can't put the pieces back together. It's perplexing. So I'll never put myself in that position again, because I know I'm just going to lose and have stress.
Chair example would have triggered such emotion in you. I never would have brought it up, man. I'm so sorry.
Like, I have a cold sweat just thinking about that chair. So thanks for that. Yeah.
I had a couple other questions that I'm going to loop into one.
Sure.
What are, you know, a lot of people talk about to-do list and things that you want to do repeatedly and routines you want to create. But one of the things I've found very useful is having a not to-do list or things that I want to make sure I'm not doing. What kind of things do you want to make sure you're not doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So another way to look at that is, what are the things that you're doing that are robbing you of confidence? And like, those are things that we can do on any given day. So one of the things that I habitually have done that I've broken free of really is checking my email first thing in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is because I'm taking someone else's priorities and I'm making them my priority. And listen, at the end of the day, who's looking out for me as the number one? Only me. I'm the only person who wants to see me as successful as I want to see myself. Other people, maybe they want to help me do well, but no one wakes up in the morning saying, all right, how do I help Casey reach his goals? Mm-hmm. No one's saying that. So I don't need to wake up in the morning saying, hey, how do I help everyone else reach their goals? So I don't hit my email until I get work done. And I always hit my biggest, highest leverage tasks. Also, on the not to do list are things that rob me of confidence. So what are things that rob me of confidence? They're things outside of my unique ability. They're follow-up tasks. So every quarter, I try to look at some things that rob me of my confidence. I label what they are, and I try to find someone else to do them, or I just stop doing them and see if something breaks.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing I don't like doing is laundry. Like, that's a not do list. I hate laundry. Just the feeling of like the hot laundry steaming, like in the mustache sweat. I just can't handle that. So in New Orleans, I was paying $1.25 a pound for clothes. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's nothing. So I'd go and drop it off. I'd go teach at the university. I'd come back and get my clothes. The chore would be done. That's a not do list because it's stressful. Mm-hmm. I just hated it. Cleaning. I can keep the house reasonably clean. But when it comes to a deep cleaning, what would I rather do? Go spend the afternoon at the dog park, or spend the afternoon on my hands and knees scrubbing the floor? I'd rather cut the check to scrub the floor. So there's the things on my not do list are really the things that I don't like doing or that rob me of the focus to work on the most important thing. And to kind of come back full circle, the most important thing is to make the most important thing, or to keep the most important thing the most important thing.
Right.
And
So,
yeah, go ahead.
just to dive into the last couple examples that you got. So you're talking about buying back your time. And I think it's a hard thing for a lot of people to wrap their heads around, because again, I think it comes off as like, I'm not going to pay anybody to do my laundry for me. Like, I could just do that. Like this attitude of I'm going to do all my stuff myself, which is fine. And sure, you can do all of your stuff yourself. But if you have the money to buy back some of your time, your precious time that you can't make any more of, then why not do it? Do you have anything to add to that for people that have a hard time getting their mind around this idea?
Well, I think at the end of the day, there's no shame or guilt in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge piece, because the reason that some people say they need to do things is because that's what you need to do. And I feel like that's the quintessential grandfather answer from the 1950s,
Mm-hmm.
which in their world was absolutely true. But just back early January, so just a few weeks ago, at the Consumer Electronics Show, there was a laundry folding robot that someone showed. You just throw laundry in a basket, and it folds it and presses it and sets it out.
That's
now
crazy.
To me, that's one step away, right? I still don't want to put it away in my dresser, but we're getting there. So we're just coming to a time where the cost to do these things is just so low. So what your parents might have spent, a lot of money on, let's say, as a relation of their paycheck to go out to dinner and a movie, right now that's really cheap. You can go get some great street food and go get a movie or watch Netflix, and like the cost as far as a percentage of your income is much lower. So you don't need to make the money that you've always thought you needed to make if this automation and if this futurism like impacts the things that you want. You just don't need to be working that long. So to anyone who's questioning, should I do this or shouldn't I? It's like, what would you do if you had the free time? Again, you're going to have the free time soon enough.
Mm-hmm.
So we look at George Herbert Walker Bush. No, George W. He's now a painter.
Wow.
Have you seen his paintings?
No.
The dude he's incredible.
Really?
I mean, he does like beautiful portrait work, a little abstract. I mean, it's awesome. I mean, that's a guy who had the hardest job in the world, and now he can do anything he wants. He can go speak. What's Jimmy Carter doing? Jimmy Carter is in small town Georgia teaching Sunday school.
Wow.
Like that's his thing, So you're robbing the world. And I almost get like overly passionate about this. Like you're robbing the world of the gift that you have if you do the bullshit that you don't want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's someone in the world who wakes up every day and wants to take chaos and turn it to order. They want to take a dirty house and clean it. That gives them satisfaction. I have a cousin who comes to my parents' house maybe once or twice a year and just cleans the whole pantry.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this cathartic thing for her. I could never, right? Like, no, thank you. I want to run away from that. But she loves it. It's like this meditative experience for her. Mm-hmm. So why not encourage her to do that, or find other people to do that, write a small check for it, and then go do the thing that provides more value to the world? Because if you don't, you're kind of a jerk, right?
Right. Very well said. Very well said. It's such an impactful idea, and kind of a paradigm shift that I hope some people listening to this can wrap their heads around.
Yeah, and it's a tough one. I don't work 40 hours a week. I work 30 hours a week, or I work 70 hours a week. That's really my binary. Either I've got to maintain at the 30 hours a week, or I'm doing something new and different and I'm all in. Mm-hmm. So I give all that I have. Mm-hmm. And on average, I probably work about 40 hours a week, but it's at my own time. And like, I'm like in control of that. Mm-hmm. So me throttling my energy is based on, a natural rhythm in my life, but also opportunities and things like that. And having that freedom is a different paradigm than our grandparents, who honestly, like, this is a whole notion of confidence too, which is they graduated college. Think of my father, graduated college at Arizona and was given 3 great lifetime job opportunities with Dow Corning and the Upjohn Company and IBM. He signed on with IBM, and he worked for IBM for 26 years and then retired. Like that, think about how easy that life would have been. Not the work, but just the confidence.
Simple, right?
He woke up every day knowing, all right, I'm about a year, maybe 2 years away from the next position, from the management position.
Right.
Okay, my pay raise will increase here. And based on this, I can plan to go buy a house. I have the confidence that I can bet on the company, bet on the safety and security of IBM, and I can go buy a house. Well, if you're in today's day and age, you can't. How long are you going to stay in your current job? There's like a robbing of confidence, like a theft of confidence, because we don't have these structures in our life that say, well, because you have a college degree, you're going to make a certain amount of money. And because we don't have that, it just opens us up to kind of create the rules to the game ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And, one thing that obviously I'm passionate about is creating rules that we're going to win with. That's what Dan Sullivan says. You created a game, so create rules that allow you to win. And that's this. So a rule that allows me to win is one where I'm working with people that I love, having fun, feeling connected, having friendships, but making a huge impact and always striving to make a bigger impact year over year. Boom. Yeah. And this is one of those things, like, at the end of the day, you might be stuck in a job that you don't love, but you're working your fitness, after hours, and you're like, I love this stuff. Like, what can you do with it? There's a way to take that and deliver that value to someone else. Maybe you can make a couple bucks doing it, or maybe the passion is in, like, the guy on Instagram, Juji Mufu. Do you know him?
Is that the guy with the splits guy?
Yeah. Crotch power. Yeah. He's got a great strategy, which is get a fine job, get a decent income. Okay. And just kind of go on autopilot and work and be a good worker, and then maximize your passions outside of work. He can do his job. He can make enough money to buy all the supplements and equipment that he needs. And now he's just doing the thing he loves, and he's being the guy that we love him to be. So.
I have a good buddy, Matt Vincent, who is doing exactly that. I mean, he's got a good job that, he travels a lot for, but he has a lot of freedom in terms of time. And so we started this apparel company, Hate Brand Goods, and he's crushing it, and he's absolutely loving it, getting to produce a whole bunch of really cool media. So he's doing exactly that. It's a great example.
Yeah. Awesome. And a lot of these things, like, it's never been easier to be an entrepreneur. But an entrepreneur isn't someone that necessarily makes money. An entrepreneur is really defined as someone who takes something from a low level of efficiency to a higher level. So you're going and doing something. What are you being more efficient at? How are you impacting the world? Yeah, you might want to make a bunch of money on it, but maybe that's not important. Maybe what's more important is making sure that you maximize time with family. Maybe you're at a position right now where you're single, and putting your head down and building something is a great risk to take. We talk about the notion of, like, risk runway. And my goal is to have the longest risk runway as possible. I want to be able to take risk for as long as possible before, I have a house, before I have multiple cars, before I have, kids, dependencies, all that kind of stuff. And just trying to maximize that time and really live out that. It's like the purpose, your purpose. And I think that purpose is this notion that you should have one purpose, you were born with it, and you just need to identify. Well, now it's like, what's your purpose right now? What's your purpose with the skills and talents that you have today? That might change in 5 years. It might change in 10. It might change tomorrow, but you should at least be moving forward in that direction, because, action begets action, and you're just going to move, like, closer to this outcome that you're looking for.
Right. Man, that takes the pressure off a lot. What's your purpose right now?
Right. Just do it right now. Just hang up, and get to work.
It's great, man. What's been the most impactful, and this is a hard question, so bear with me. What's been the most impactful conversation or experience you've had in the past year, give or take 6 months?
That's a really tough one. I mean, I proposed about 5 weeks ago, so that was a hell of a
Hell
conversation.
yeah.
Um, you know, that level of commitment to Adelaide and to myself about
Mhm.
what we're doing is huge. You know, I took my time. You know, we dated for 5 years before
Mhm.
got engaged, and that wasn't because I was being lazy. That wasn't because I didn't want to make a commitment. That's because I wanted to make damn sure that the commitment I was making was one that I could hold for a long time. Um, you know, this futurism stuff, I have a plan to live to be 153,
Mhm.
right? I think like we're going to have the ability to do that. I think that incredible things are going to happen in our lifetime. I think we're going to have the opportunity to go to Mars, you know, and actually like go on a vacation to Mars if we want. Like we live in this incredible time, and finding someone that you can be with that's going to support you, that you can in turn support. I mean, like that's that's the thing that's going to multiply my effectiveness.
Mhm.
You know, you look at someone like Elon Musk. You know, he's been divorced, like because that work isn't easy, right? He didn't have that level of success necessarily before he got married. So he changed so dramatically. And did he have the conversation around, am I going to have a marriage that's going to be able to withstand the growth that I'm expecting from my life? And maybe he didn't, he didn't. And, you know, maybe he did something wrong. Maybe she didn't. I don't know like what happened, but like when you're expecting to do something great in your life, you need to make sure that you're surrounded with people that believe in you and that can, you know, keep the pace and push you. Um, so that was a hard decision to make. Like, am I really ready for this commitment? And I decided I was.
So, how did you answer the question? Why get married? Why not? Does there's the conversation of like the institution of marriage being in. That's not the right word. I was going to use insignificant, but um, it doesn't necessarily change your relationship,
Totally.
right? So, how did you guys answer that question for yourselves?
Yeah. So it definitely wasn't answered religiously.
Right.
Um, right. So that's just kind of like not in the relationship. So there was no reason, you know, for the church to say something or for anything. And honestly, like the whole notion of biological clock, I think, is kind of being put on its head with, you know, the freezing of eggs and
Right.
strategies for human longevity. So the real reason is I want to make a formal commitment to work hard to build something that's going to be awesome, and I want someone to be there that I can push and that can push me. And that's really what it came down to. And then obviously, you know, like having 100 kids to take over the world is maybe like
Right.
a side benefit. But that's years away. So the goal really was just to say like, I'm committed to this. And it's when like in a story, you look at the hero with 1,000 faces, which is the monomyth that Joseph Campbell identified. You know, all cultures have the same monomyth, which is the story of the underdog. It's the story of Harry Potter. It's the story of Luke Skywalker. It's the story of Indiana Jones, which is someone, a regular person, something happens, they get called to greatness, they make the decision to do it, and then they go and they achieve the goal, they come back, and the world is just a little bit different. You know, it's a little bit shinier, it's a little
Mhm.
bit more beautiful, or the food tastes a little better. And that monomyth, like you always, it's when the commitment happens that the adventure really begins. You know, up
Yeah.
until that point, it's like this loose commitment of dating and hanging out and maybe cohabitating or whatever.
Mhm.
But it's not until you make that commitment that it's like, all right, like there's a commitment, this is formal,
Mhm.
it's maybe on paper, but it's between us and there's a ring that binds it. And like that
Right.
commitment says that we are on the path to do something great. And I mean, to me, it's like just drawing a line in the sand and saying this is the starting point, and
Mhm.
like let's figure out what the finish looks like and let's hold each other to it.
I love that. I love that answer. Thank you. My last question for you. How do you measure success?
That's tough. Oh, that's tough. You know, the success in weightlifting is like, what's my Wilks score? So I'm looking at that and seeing, you know, as I gain and lose weight,
Or is that
how is my
powerlifting?
strength change? Yeah, powerlifting, right? Um, so I look at that. In business, Honestly, I mean, my biggest indicator of success is my income greater than my bills, right? That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and do I go to work every Monday and like have fun? Am I having fun? We did a team retreat recently and we listed all the qualities of the clients that we want to work with and what our favorite clients all had in common.
Mm-hmm.
And one answer was fun, they had humility, and they were working on something big. So I define my success as always trying to do something bigger and better. You know, you look at these guys. You ever watch that TV show Ballers?
No.
Okay, I love The Rock. I just
Yeah,
have like
me
a
too. Me too. It looks like a
total man
cool show.
crush. Yeah. So the notion of it is like he is a financial advisor to NFL players who just went from dead broke in college to multi-millions a year for a contract in the NFL, and then they just like blow it all and have too much fun, and then they kind of wind up broke. And The Rock is broke in the situation. He kind of feigns wealth, and I think that's so. It's like such an interesting picture to paint, which is like he enjoys the work that he does, but he made some bad decisions, and to have clarity around like specific clarity around what to do now when things are good and how to be successful so that when you know you start making big money or you start making big impact or whatever, you have a long-term strategy for that, is really important. So there's the short-term wins, there's closing a big deal, there's that kind of stuff that's really fun, there's hitting a new PR in your bench, but when you measure success, to me, it's about what's that long term, which is not something that I typically think about, but I want to reward myself with thoughts of long term.
Mm-hmm.
So when I talk to my financial advisor and we're putting money into different kinds of insurance vehicles or, a Roth or whatever, like understanding that, like the rewards for that don't feel as tangible,
Mm-hmm.
but I celebrate them more, right? Like that's celebratory. That's like high five time instead of just closing a short-term sale that puts some cash in my pocket.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I measure success based on the future of things as much as I can, but really it's just kind of like, is it fun? And am I moving the needle forward? And am I doing bigger and better?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to end up like a football player who had a $13 million contract and then spent it all and now goes to the bar every Sunday to watch sports with his buddies to reminisce.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So Dan Sullivan, another great thing he says is always make your future bigger than your past. And that's a big thing for success. So sometimes I'm up, sometimes I'm down. Sometimes I go out and close a big client and it feels great. And sometimes I go out and make a fool of myself because I screwed up. But as long as I'm pacing forward and I have that positive focus to measure what I've done, am I happy about it?
Mm-hmm.
Am I getting out of my comfort zone? Am I impacting more people? And am I proud of the person I'm becoming? Like that's success.
Phenomenal answer. Is there anything else you want to leave these guys with? We have obviously a ton of athletes, but also gym owners and business owners listening to this.
One of the things in business, just as like a business tip, is the point of a business is to get and keep a customer. Peter Drucker said that. He's the father of management, and I love him. But to get and keep a customer, that's the point of a business. That's the point of a lot of what we do in life. And I think a lot of people just try to get, but they don't try to keep.
Right.
So when I think of a gym, I think of the gyms that I've gone to. The goal is to keep me there. To get me in the doors, that's expensive. We look at McDonald's. They say, you go up and you say, I'll take a double quarter pounder with cheese. They say, great, do you want fries with that? The reason they say, do you want fries with that is because their profit margin on the double quarter pounder is a couple pennies. But if you get fries on top of it, then they're going to make about 70 cents on you. So they're trying to maximize the value that they give you more food in exchange for more money. But they're trying to keep you as a customer. They're trying to provide a good experience. And I feel like in business, just one of my frustrations as I travel and go to different gyms is you might have, the latest and greatest rogue rigs. You might have great Olympic bars. You might have bumper plates. But if you don't try to keep me, if you're not the kind of gym owner that stops and says, hey, or that you have an email series that pops back to me and says, hey, you're 7 days into your membership. How's it been? I feel like you're missing out on an enormous growth potential, which are people who have taken the risk to come in, who have given you money, who've trusted you, and all you got to do is keep them coming back. So that's a big thing, I think, on the gym owner side. That could be, I think, transformative, at least to the gyms that I go to.
That's the biggest, that's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in the past couple of years, period. And it goes for, I don't know, that translates into other areas of life as well. Create value for people first before asking for something.
All the time. Yeah. One of the in the book Influence with Robert Cialdini, he talks a lot about this and reciprocity. And I love the idea of, like, if I asked you for $1 on the street and you didn't know me, you'd be like, no. But if I gave you $10 and asked you for $1 in return, you'd say, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So how do I give someone value? How do I make it a great experience? And there's so many great ways to do it online. I went to a gym in Ann Arbor, Michigan, right when I was starting to get into CrossFit, and it was Hyperfit USA. I can't forget this place. They had grill outs. It was bring your own protein, and they had beer and they had grills. So there I am, like this scrawny dude just out of college, and like I can go and have like a steak next to some other guys and hang out. Like they're creating community for me. They're keeping me around. Yeah. And what's the cost of that? You know, they already have the grill, probably. All they got to do is fly a flyer and put on some music, and that's it.
So ask your people if they want French fries with their gym membership. Is that what you're saying?
That's it. Yeah, absolutely. Make sure they're like triple deep fried. Yeah.
Amen, man. Gluten free.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Very low carb. Yeah, man. Where can people find out more about you, your companies, keep up with you, that kind of thing?
Sure. So we've got a couple of things going on. The work that we're doing together is Engaged Officers. So that's at engagedofficers.com. And that's at outsourced chief marketing and chief technology officer. So we step into companies and help them who have good missions, who are doing good work, and are just getting a little stuck on their marketing or tech. We've also got a full implementation team, and we've done things like built out the Wolf of Wall Street website for Jordan Belfort when he launched that. Movie, was it last year, a number of New York Times bestsellers, and we did a Kickstarter campaign that raised $1.5 million. So Tech Guys is a neat implementation, custom development, kind of anything goes team. And that's at techguyswhogetmarketing.com, or more simply techguys.co. And the last one is, for me personally, I am doing a regular email just around how I see the world. As a former professor of marketing, I just see the world through the lens of a marketer. And I just kind of have a daily email that I send out, and people can sign up for that. And I talk about business growth strategies. So for gym owners or for other businesses. And that's at myname.com. So CaseyStanton.com, CaseyStanton.com. And that's just a free, regular mailing that I send out.
Awesome, man. Guys, I can't recommend Casey and his team enough. So if you or anyone needs some help on the marketing end, or your website, or just business in general, look at what they offer, reach out, and they'll tell you if they can help you or not.
Yeah, Casey, awesome. And say that you came from Mike. That's important.
Yeah.
So otherwise I'll treat you nicely.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
All
Thanks
right,
for having me on, dude.
Absolutely.